Hi, it's Penny here. Welcome to another reading vlog. This week, the main thing I'm going to be doing is rereading God's War by Cameron Hurley. So this is on my list of books that I read 10 years ago and I really want to reread them. I did actually just see that I only gave this 3 stars on my first read, which is interesting because in my last vlog I reread this, which I also gave 3 stars. On a reread I still gave it 3 stars, but I'm glad I reread it. So even though this is a 3-star read, I'm hoping, even if I give it another 3 stars on a reread, I'm hoping I'll still enjoy that reread. So this is a sci-fi book about a bounty hunter called Nyx in this sci-fi world where the science, technology is all kind of bug-based, and Nyx kind of finds herself in the middle of some kind of political drama. I've forgotten really what this book is about because it's been 10 years since I last read it. But even though I only gave it 3 stars last time, I also remembered that I liked it. And I can see I've tabbed a few things in here. And I know I gave the second book a better rating. So, I guess I'll read this, remember what it's about, and let you know. As well, I'm probably going to start Age of Empire, the 6th and final book in the Legends of the First Empire series by Michael J. Sullivan. I've been reading the series for a while. It's one of his series in the bigger Rhyria world where, well, in this particular series, we've kind of got elves versus humans. Initially, the humans thought the elves were gods, but then when they accidentally kill one, they realize they're not, and it kind of starts a bigger conflict in motion. I've kind of been loving this series, but I've also had little problems with every book. I'm just really hoping that somehow everything is going to really come together in the last book. I do have a lot of faith in Michael J. Sullivan to do that, even if some of the books in this series I feel like haven't quite done that. So I guess fingers crossed on that. I probably will not finish that this week because I've been trying to run these vlogs from Thursday to Wednesday, but it's currently Saturday, so I'm starting late. But of course, delusional me, I'm still imagining that I could somehow finish this by Wednesday. 400 pages, doubtful. Will I also have time to read much of Age of Empire? I'm going to read the ebook when I have ebook reading time. When will that be? Honestly, I have low hopes of finding much of it this week, but we'll see. Then as well, audiobooks. So the actual audiobook I want to read this week is School of Shards, which is the 3rd book in the Vita Nostra trilogy, which is the first book I love, the second book I also love, even if I don't love it quite as much. So I have high hopes for that. It's like a weird dark academia kind of story. But before I get into that, I did also start another audiobook. I don't actually know how far through am I. 25%. So I'm reading The Starving Saints by Starling. I actually saw a couple of people, I think, give this negative reviews, but the way they talked about it, I thought, that could be weird in a way that I would enjoy, even if these people didn't like it. Now that I'm 25% of the way in, I think maybe it was a bad call, and I was thinking about DNFing it, but kind of just before I finished listening to it on my run yesterday, something happened that made it a little bit interesting. So the idea of the story is we have this castle that's under siege, and we're following a few different characters. One of them is this heretic who has been tasked with solving the food crisis because they don't have enough food, and she's trying to use some kind of alchemy, some kind of heresy stuff to solve that. She had already solved the problem of them not having enough water, so people are hopeful that she might solve the problem, even though there's also a lot of people who think it's very unlikely. But the king supports her. That's the main thing. We're also following this knight who's kind of been put in charge of her, a lady knight. And there's also this other person that I'm not really sure who they are. They're giving me criminal vibes. And they actually seem to be trying to get revenge on this knight that they had some kind of sapphic interaction with in the past, but at this point would like to get revenge on her. At the same time, we kind of have this siege going on. Honestly, the most interesting thing is that our heretic has these little demon pets that most of the time just seem like they're probably cats, but there's a few descriptions of them that are I think they're some kind of shadow demons. Other people don't seem to be able to see them. So that's kind of interesting, but a tiny bit, not important to the story at all, really, so far. Then though, just before I stopped listening to it yesterday, the saints turned up from their religion. And that's kind of blown a few of our characters' minds. We are also getting the head of the priory or something in this religion and her perspective of things, and they're all a little bit sus about these saints randomly turning up. And I don't know, the saints could be interesting, but the general tone of the book so far has been very dull. Even though, the story has potential for weirdness and interestingness, but I don't know, I'm not feeling it, but I might give it like another little bit of a try before I give up on it. I'm feeling generous, I guess, but we'll see whether that lasts or not. Okay, so it is Monday already, which I think means it's been a couple of days. And honestly, I pretty much just didn't read much over the weekend. However, today I did get some reading done. So I'm actually just over 100 pages into God's War. I think it's actually a sign, the fact that I waited so long to update you. Normally I would try to update my initial thoughts about a book earlier, but honestly, I just felt more like reading this than vlogging. Which is a sign that I'm liking the book. It's really quite like grimdark in a way, but it's sci-fi, but it's more like sci-fi fantasy. The bug technology that I talked about, it's kind of tech, it's kind of a little bit magic. Like there are certain people that have like an affinity with like bug manipulation, and then they use the bugs for all sorts of things, for tech and also for healing. So it's like a little bit science, a little bit magic, like a mix in between as well. So in this world, we have two countries that have been at war for a really long time, and the religion in this is kind of loosely based on like Muslims, I think, which I'm not necessarily an expert in, but I think like one country kind of does it differently than the other one, and so war forever. But also, the country that Nyx is from sends all their men up until the age 40 to the front lines, and so their country is mostly kind of run by women, the women left behind, and the culture is very different for that reason. But as well, so Nyx was a beldame, which is basically these government hired assassins who will track down men from the front line that have deserted and chop off the head, because they always use the head as like the thing that they use to claim the reward. So that's what the beldames do. But Nyx on the side has been, selling things to gene pirates and taking other like black bounty hunter jobs on. And as a result, she is in a lot of trouble with the beldames who are like, you shouldn't really be doing that stuff. And I do like that Nyx is like really, I don't know, I like her, but she's also terrible. Like I feel like with a lot of assassin books, you never really see them doing much actual murder. But this, Nyx has already cut off multiple people's heads. And like, were those people particularly bad people? No. But it never also tries to make out in any way that anything she's doing is actually good. Like everything about Nyx is that she's just doing stuff out of desperation or bad decision making, which she acknowledges as well. Then on the other side, I'd actually forgotten that we get a lot of this other guy's perspective. So every second chapter, I think, pretty much is from Reese's perspective. So he's actually from the other country, but he was exiled and he really doesn't like the country that he's now in, but he's got no choice. So he is one of these bug magicians. They call them magicians, but he's only of like kind of middling talent, and there's a lot of racism against him. And like if he was very talented in his bug manipulation, he could probably kind of get a good position anyway, but because he's average, he pretty much can't get anything, which is why he's ended up working with Nyx when she needs a bug magician. But I just really like the way that it's talking about this war. Like I had already tabbed some lines and I've tabbed some more. I'm really enjoying this. It's something about the characters, but also just the real dark and gritty vibe. It's quite honest the way that it's writing the characters. So I think I've actually decided that I'm not going to let myself play Hello Kitty Island Adventure until I get to 200 pages, which means actually maybe I won't even get to it tonight. And maybe going forward, I'm going to, at least until the end of this book, say I have to read 100 pages a day. And if I don't, then I can't play my game. Maybe that will motivate me and get my priorities straight. Maybe. Or will it, by making Hello Kitty the reward, do I make that the thing I want to do more? I don't know. Motivation's hard, but I am excited to keep reading this. The other thing I did do is today I went on a run and I finished off The Starving Saints. I will admit, it got a bit better kind of in the last half. I think I read online somebody said it got better in the last third. That's probably more accurate. We got a lot more cannibalism, and then we learned a lot more of these saints being quite twisted. But I think at the end of the day, the thing that really let this book down is that the characters all felt very much the same. Like the characterization wasn't very strong, and so it was hard to feel interested in the story. And I also don't really think that the weirdness got weird enough, or like there's cannibalism is a big piece of this book, and I just don't think it got that dark. I know that some people disagree, and maybe people have different thresholds for reading about cannibalism, but I think if you're going to include it, just go for it, you know? Otherwise, what's the point? But for a lot of this book, I just didn't really feel like it was trying to say anything. There was a little bit, and maybe more as it got towards the end, where it was talking about sacrifice and worship in a way that was kind of interesting, and like people's desires, like, you know, this whole idea that people are starving and comparing hunger to a hunger for something rather than like not necessarily just food. But I don't know, it just didn't really feel like it was saying that much in the end. So it was a bit disappointing, which kind of I expected. So like, I think I still gave it 3 stars. Did I? Like, it was fine, but if it had just gone full out weird, maybe it could have been awesome, but it wasn't. Anyway, I haven't got to School of Shards yet because I spent my whole time listening to The Starving Saints, which do I kind of regret? Kind of. Anyway, right now I'm going to read some more of this, and then I don't know when I'll find some more audiobook time. I guess we'll see. Okay, so my deal last night with myself to not let myself play Hello Kitty until I had read 200 pages of this, or 2-page 200. It worked out. So I'm actually at page 250 or 230. Don't lie to myself now. I'm at page 230 because I read an extra 30 pages this morning, and I'm not letting myself play Hello Kitty today until I get to page 300, which I think should be okay, although I'm trying to do a bunch of video stuff today as well. But anyway, the summary is that seems to work okay as a motivation technique, but also it's probably helping that I am really enjoying this book. I think since I talked to you yesterday, there was kind of quite a big, more action focus, not just action, but definitely a lot of things happening. Basically, Nyx has gotten this particular bounty that she has to try and track down this woman that they're looking for. Actually, an alien, but in this world the aliens are just other humans from other planets, but because the people on this planet were refugees basically from other planets, but then once they set up on this planet they shot down initially anyone else who was trying to come there, so they don't often see people from other planets come to visit, but these aliens have come to visit, but they're really just other humans, right? So I kind of love the way that they just all keep referring to them as aliens. Anyway, I'm enjoying kind of working out what's going on with this mystery about the aliens. There's kind of a bit of conspiracy going on. Like, it's an interesting mystery. As well, I think what I'm loving about this in a lot of ways is like Nyx and Reese's relationship. And I don't actually remember, I don't think that in the series it gets romantic ever. I don't think so. But like, both of them really dislike each other, and in ways that are like fairly justified, but also there's things that they really value about each other, and like over time those things that they value are kind of coming to mean more to them than the things that annoy them, and like a lot of the time they're having to rely on each other for each other's safety. And I don't know, I mean, if it was a romance I would probably be loving this, but I don't think it is a romance. I think it's more just like a relationship between two people who are on these two opposite sides of religion and war and country lines, but for whatever reason have ended up working together on like the wrong side of everything, but also currently working for the Queen, so kind of on the right side of things. It's complicated, and I love the complexity to it. And also just the grittiness. I think it's a really, like I think I said before, I lately haven't been enjoying a lot of books about war, and I think it's because I don't like books about war that kind of try and sell it on this idea of honor and glory. But this feels like a much more realistic take on war, where it's like, is this even worth it? But it doesn't matter because we're stuck in the middle of it and we've just got to deal with it. But also there are some really great kind of lines thinking about war, but I don't know. Anyway, I'm really loving it. So I guess once I finish this bit of video stuff I'm doing just now, I will try and sit down and get to my 300 pages. Oh, and I haven't read anything else. I try to read ebooks in the morning, like before we turn on the light, but lately I'm blaming it on daylight savings, even though I'm not sure that's fair. But lately I've just been sleeping in. I think I'm just tired, and that's fine. If I need to sleep, I need to sleep. Hello. So I'm actually pretty proud of myself because I just finished off God's War. Don't need a bookmark on it anymore. And like I actually managed to pull off reading 100 pages a day for 4 days and finish this in 4 days, which I thought was delusional. But I don't know, was it my reward system that worked, or was it just luck? I guess we'll see whether I can keep it up or not. So this, I really liked this. I haven't actually quite confirmed my rating, but I think it's going to be a 4-star. Like, not quite a 5-star, although there are some, like I tabbed a lot of different pages through this, a lot of really great lines. And I love the characters. Like Nyx is such a terrible person, such a screw up. And I just think it's so wonderfully presented. Like, I don't really like her as a person, but I like her as a character, if you know the difference. And I also just think that this did such a great job of portraying what this war would really be like. But also there's a bunch of like crazy stuff in here about like gene piracy, and there's a whole bunch of bug torture. Do not pick up this book if you're at all sensitive about disgusting bugs everywhere, but also like limbs being chopped off all the time. Like so many people's heads get chopped off, but also people lose arms and other things. So it's pretty brutal, and I really appreciated like the honesty of this book, and I'm excited to be continuing this series actually. Like rereading this, what a great idea, Penny, well done. Anyway, it's now late at night. I've already played my Hello Kitty for the day, as well as reading 100 pages today already. And actually I sorted out some video stuff, so productivity all around. I'm going to go to bed and try and read some more of Age of Empire. I did also read a couple of chapters of this morning, just a couple of chapters. To be honest, it's pretty much following on straight after the events of Age of Death, the book before this in the series, which really confirms my belief that it should have been a single book. Especially when you consider for like epic fantasy, these are very short books, and because Michael J. Sullivan kind of self-funded or Kickstarter funded the publishing of these books, and I think he put them out like in quite quick succession. So like if you'd kept to the typical 1-year release cycle and just made these books bigger, but then maybe that would have been harder for Kickstarter funding. Maybe that's the reasoning. Anyway, I think it would have been a lot better, and I expect a lot more satisfying if this had just been wrapped up into the previous book. But anyway, first couple of chapters are really just getting back into it. I don't know, I think I already explained what the series is about in this blog, but honestly, I've talked about the synopsis or the overview of the series so many times now. I'm so tired. Elves versus humans, basically. But in this one, we're continuing to kind of also explore about the afterlife and the gods of the world, and we better get a lot more information or I'm going to be annoyed. But yeah, I'm going to go to bed and try and see how much of this I can get through before I fall asleep. I don't know, it might not be that much. Also tomorrow morning, I think I'll end this vlog after my run tomorrow morning so that I've at least started School of Shards, since I mentioned it at the beginning of the vlog. And I think I started this vlog on Thursday, so that's like making it a proper week. which is always my goal, but usually I fail. But maybe this was a week of winning at goals. Maybe. Let's not jinx it. Okay, so the time has come to finish up this reading vlog. I did manage last night, this morning, a little bit of this afternoon while I was putting off updating this vlog. I've managed to get about a quarter of the way into Age of Empire, so that's like some progress. To be honest, all the stuff and kind of like the afterlife is really frustrating me. It just keeps like kind of harping on about the same ideas and the idea that different people carry the weight of their life with them in different ways in the afterlife. And like, it's frustrating me because they keep just like not figuring out what's going on for so long, but also like just repeating the idea over and over, even though they're not getting it. Anyway, I didn't really like the afterlife bits in the book before, but I think they're actually frustrating me even more in this book. And I kind of just want to move on from that part of the story and get back to the real world. Or like, I feel like it's not until we leave the afterlife that we're actually going to understand any of the stuff that we've learned while we were there. And also, like, I just don't feel that it's necessarily hitting the emotional beats properly. There is a bit. So basically, these two characters are in love, and they have basically descended to the lower levels of hell, sort of. And then they end up separated. And one of them says, I wonder where the other one is. I wonder where the other one is. I am separated from my true love in the depths of hell, and I'm just going to say, I wonder where they are. Like, is it not a little bit more extreme than that? Are you not having a bigger reaction? It just seemed like really bizarre to me. And like, so I'm a quarter of the way in, and still we're just building up to the events that the previous book was also building up to, especially in terms of there's a human with the Frey, the elves, and they're kind of trying to negotiate peace, and there's a big like political conspiracy kind of going on, and that has been building and building, and we've got the plan and we're executing the plan, but for 25% we've still just been talking about executing the plan that we already spent the whole last book talking about. Like, honestly, just get to the point. But anyway, I will continue this in my next reading vlog, and hopefully we will get to something a little bit more satisfying with this. There has been a couple of bits, I'll admit, there's been a couple of bits in the first quarter where we've learned a little bit more about the world, and I have liked those bits, but just like give me more of those and less of all the nonsense that I think is nonsense. Anyway, also, I did go for a run this morning, and I started School of Shards. I think I'm like 20% of the way in, and admittedly, it hasn't actually got very far in that 20% either, but it's definitely keeping me more interested than this one. So I think going into this, I thought that it was going to be from a different perspective compared to the first two books in the series. And it isn't and it isn't. So basically in this third book, we start out and Sasha, our main character from the first two books, is now working as like a teacher at the school, and things at the school are not really going that great. So they're doing a bit of a recruitment drive. And as part of that, we're getting the perspective of two kind of like young men or like older teenage boys, and they're going to be recruited into the school. So like 20% of the way, we're really just in part of the recruitment process, which would be fine, except that I'm so aware that this is a short book. So I feel like we're not really going to get much of their actual school experience, because by the time we get there, we'll already be a third of the way through the book. But anyway, it is still like really nicely weird and definitely building on a lot of the concepts and ideas from the first two books. So I am still enjoying it, and like Sasha's struggles. So we are still getting chapters of Sasha's perspective as well as these two boys. And I really like her perspective the most still, because she's got kind of some interesting conceptual difficulties. Anyway, since I'm finishing off this weekly vlog, I will finish that off in my next weekly vlog. But definitely my favorite read of this vlog was God's War. The Starving Saints was probably my least favorite read of the vlog. Well, those are the two things I finished. And then this I have mixed feelings about. And School of Shards, I don't know, promising, but I'm just concerned about how short it is. Anyway, do let me know if you've read any of those books, because I would love to chat with you about them down in the comments. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.